The New York Times calls Y tu mamá también shocking, comic, and unforgettable. It's the story of three people on a journey to a place none of them dreamed could exist. To love somebody. Golden Globe nominee for Best Foreign Language Film. Por México, Y tu mamá también.
Almost missed that one. Welcome back
Welcome
to the
back
show.
to the show.
Listeners,
Are
you ready
to talk about
for,
this movie? Are you ready to talk about this movie? Because I am.
Yeah, I was born ready. This movie is very formative.
Absolutely.
For so many of us.
We have a really fun guest.
We do. Well, let's get right into it. Yeah. Listeners, my name's Pete.
And I'm Scott, and these are the movies that made us gay.
Absolutely.
Sandra Espinoza,
Hi.
welcome to the show. This episode has been a long time coming,
yes.
But here you are. We finally got you over. And we had a very informative movie for both. I mean, I think for all three of us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We invited you over to watch Y tu mamá también, directed by Alfonso Cuarón, written by Alfonso and Carlos Cuarón, opened in Mexico June 8th, 2001, where it set a record for the highest box office opening in Mexican cinema at the time.
Wow.
I think for just like a Mexican movie like this.
Right.
And then it went on to be released in the United States, limited March 12th, 2002. 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And it was very, well, we'll talk a little bit about it, but Sandra, thank you for choosing this movie.
Thank you. It's my favorite movie of all time.
Good.
So when you guys asked,
We've had other people
really wanted
express
to do
interest
it.
in this movie, but I was saving it
Thank
specifically for you because you grew up in Mexico.
Yes.
Which, yeah.
So I hope that I honor that because, and I bring a little bit of interesting edge to it.
You're our Latin Rosarita jumping bean.
You said you weren't going to be racist.
These two can say that because they're both like
We're both brown.
They're both Latino
And it's okay.
and a Latina.
I feel very connected to this movie. I've only been to Mexico City once, but the whole time I was there, I was just like, oh yeah, I get it now.
Well,
Even more so.
The beauty of this movie is, for me, as born and raised in Mexico, and seeing the way that he truly shows the dynamic of Mexicans in Mexico, the different classes, how they sort of blend and not blend, and when I first saw this movie, I watched it over and over and over again because I felt like he really nailed it. He really nailed the Mexican experience in terms of, for me, someone who doesn't have the means that, Tenoch in the movie has. Mm-hmm. But I'm also not, Gael Garcia's Julio. Julio. Even though he's not like, well off like Tenoch, he's still well off, but the way that he just really... just the sensitivity around this whole thing, and it had to be done by a Mexican because he really captured like everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we want to talk about our first memories of watching this movie? I have a very vivid one.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
tell us.
I remember this movie came out when I was in high school. Our video store did not have this movie because probably the foreign selection at the movie store was limited. So I ended up getting this from Netflix discs because I've talked about it on the show. Yeah. Part of like the fun of Netflix when it came out is that these hard to find movies I could get my
grubby
little hands on. And I remember watching this movie after a basketball game with two friends of mine who were girls who were also very, they really wanted to watch it.
How old were you at this time?
We were probably,
2002? You were
17.
16, 17? Yeah.
And I remember these two girls were like, oh, yeah, we also want to watch this movie.
Wait, did you play this basketball game?
No.
Or did you watch it?
I believe that I was in pep band at the time. And we were playing pep band for the basketball game. And then after the game, we went to my dad's house to watch this movie.
So it was you and two girls.
Me and two girls.
Okay.
Yep.
Woo!
Yep.
And were you scandalized?
Of course. I mean, but I just remember thinking like, oh my God. I remember just thinking I've never seen anything like this.
At this point, were you out?
No, not at all.
So,
and especially
all
like
of those feelings.
especially like just how fucking horny this movie is.
Yeah.
I mean, it opens up with
first
shot, like
Diego
him
Luna's
going into his girlfriend.
beautiful
and you
smooth
see
booty.
little Diego Luna and that boy butt. Opening scene of the movie.
Which now, back then, it was like very sexy. Now looking back, it's like, I don't want to see this baby.
Yeah.
This baby like humping on this little...
I think we're finally getting the real intention of the movie. Whereas when we all first saw it, we were at that age where we're like, oh my God, these boys are so cute, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
but
we're
now,
the age.
yeah, but now we're more like...
Children, what are you doing? Get
what
her
is it,
passport.
Louisa? Where we're just like, oh my God, you guys
like
are
these two
kids.
knuckleheads.
So tell me a little bit more about when you saw it. You're not out. You have two girls with you.
Yeah.
Well, as a white, not out yet man, what did you think about this movie?
I mean, like I said, I don't think that I had ever seen raw sexuality in a movie like this when I was 17. That you get these two horny, I mean, they're probably like 18. They're probably just out of high school.
Yeah,
in the movie.
I think in the movie they're in prepa, if I'm not mistaken, which is a little bit after high school.
But I just remember all of us just not like being very fascinated with it, that we had to like track this movie down, watched it like late at night over at my house.
Yeah.
And all three of us just like being blown away by it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I remember specifically that Blockbuster would not carry the unrated version of this movie. Mm-hmm. Because Blockbuster, there was a big thing about, they're Christian owned, it's a family company, and they decided not to carry unrated versions of movies. They would carry it if they did a cut that made it rated R.
Right.
And so they did that for this movie, and I specifically decided... Oh, no, I watched it because that's the only way I could get my hands on it. And then I finally ended up buying it, and I probably got it on Amazon.
So you saw it without all the...
Right, so I saw the rated R version. Mm-hmm. And then when I finally bought it, it must have been either Amazon or I may have bought it at like Tower Records or something. And I bought the unrated version, and I was like, woo!
I went on to buy
you see everything, which I didn't realize. Yep. And maybe I always watched the R-rated version. And, when I saw it a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, that is a penis.
Yes.
Yep. You see them in the locker room.
I am seeing a penis.
And swimming in the pool, in the leafy pool.
Yeah.
All of that. Yeah. There's a lot of these.
I remember Gael García Bernal was just coming on the scene. I remember also at this time renting Amores Perros, which he had done with Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu the year before this. I think that it pretty much got him this movie, was doing that. So, I just kind of me dipping my toe into foreign cinema. Mm-hmm. And then later in college, I studied abroad in Mexico. Yeah. And I studied abroad in like Michoacan, which like is sort of out in the sticks. Like it's pretty much just like rural Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Which you see a lot in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And you see like that's exactly what I love, that when they're driving through this, the pueblos, you see I think there was a quinceañera that they had, and they had to give them cooperativa, which is like, some money, for the quinceañera, and you see all the little the crosses on the street for people who have passed, and they want to honor their dead. So, how was your experience in that? Like after seeing this and experiencing this a little bit more?
I think that I got more of the political subtext of the movie, and they talk about how Tenoch's father is he a politician? Or
he is. Wait.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. But
So,
they said he got back into politics, I believe, when Tenoch he was a nationalist, which is very different than being a nationalist here in the United States.
Right.
In Mexico,
but I remember
patriótico.
when I was living in Mexico, we had sort of a crash course in Mexican politics. So we learned about all of the political parties, the presidents, just sort of the political unrest that's been pretty much
always
consistent for 50 years. So I think that I got more of that when I revisited it when I was in my early 20s after I had studied abroad, and I kind of started to understand a little bit of that, because it's like that's in the movie, but it's just sort of
in the
you
background.
kind of have to be looking for it, or you have to be familiar with just Mexican politics and society to really pick up on it.
And that's sort of like what Cuarón does in his movies.
Yeah.
He presents you with like these characters who are living their life in Mexico, and then, you know, like crossing the street, you know, this person died and they didn't find him, you know, for 3, days, or, you know, little things like that. Like, again, like if you're not from the country, if you're not looking for that, you won't necessarily catch it.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, like a true like Mexican experience, you know, that you are living your life, you are, you know, in this huge, you know, Mexico City, but all these little lives are happening, and you don't necessarily like realize.
Yeah, and I remember we became friendly with the locals who were probably in their mid to late 20s, and I remember sort of observing the dynamics with them and their parents, and I immediately thought of this movie, of how they would treat their sons, of that they are like their little prince, and just sort of like young people are just sort of tethered to their parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just, which
Yes,
is a
we
very
are.
interesting dynamic, because I
Yeah.
was like, I left home at 18 and I just like went on to college and I did my own thing. I made a lot of mistakes, but it was just sort of, my mom just sort of gave me the freedom to just sort of go out and live my life. But you're sort of tethered to family, and
Family is the most important.
Yeah.
Like if you're not married, you're not leaving your
Then
house.
don't leave. Yeah,
It
why
doesn't-
move out? It doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like
Yeah.
you're not leaving this house.
And you see
if
sort
you're
of-
a man, like you
you
bring your wife to the house
yeah,
to live.
correct. Yeah,
and you see the dynamics with like
Tenoch.
Tenoch's like nanny, and just kind of stuff like that.
How she like? I think does she feed him that sandwich? She's very close to feeding him
We always
that,
notice-
that quesadilla that
We always
she
notice
brings
that
to him.
we always notice that she pats him on the head.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
little puppy.
Well, because she probably raised them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if
Yeah.
you've seen Roma, also from Cuarón, you know, that's what they do. They
Absolutely.
bring these women from the outer skirts and the small pueblos of Mexico, and
Yeah.
because there's no work, and
Yeah.
they bring them to the big city, and they raise your children. You
I
know?
think there's one of the voiceovers later on towards the when they get to her pueblo, when they drive past it.
right, right.
And he says that he kind of talks about it, and he says that he called her mamá until he was like 3.
Exactly, and
Before.
he sees the name of her pueblo, and
Yeah.
you know he didn't tell
didn't
anyone.
say
and
anything,
he
yeah.
didn't say anything, and she probably raised them until
Yeah.
like now. That's his actual mother, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So hey, I wonder when Gael Garcia says "y tu mamá también," like does he mean his mom or does he mean the
Leo,
nanny?
Yeah.
I was like, which
Maybe
one?
But the
Which
real
one do you
mom, though,
mean?
she's just like this hippie, like spiritual lady. She's like,
Because she's rich.
yeah,
Yeah,
She has the opportunity
Yeah.
to be a hippie
yeah.
Mexican lady, you know, because
And-
every other Mexican lady is like out there doing something.
Hustling, yeah.
They're hustling. They're not like taking
Yeah.
mushrooms on a Monday
Oh my
afternoon, you know?
God. Yeah.
I think it's interesting when you look at Cuarón's career that he had done some pretty big studio movies up until this movie, and that probably had a big influence on just the visual look on this movie, just because I think that he kind of wanted to do a movie that was not really influenced by the Hollywood system. I think he wanted to go back to something that was a little more raw, that kind of feels like a documentary.
Well-
and you definitely see it in this movie.
Well,
And-
it's he always uses, oh my God, Chivo to
Yeah.
his
Yep.
cinematographer, which I think he did this
he
one
did
too.
this movie, yeah.
And when I saw, before I watched this over, I saw Solo con tu pareja. So if you have a chance to watch that, it's amazing because it's also using that same, I think it's Chivo also. And I feel like this movie is a continuation of that. And they have the same opening scene where it's like they're having sex and following like this well-off like family and group of friends and so I feel like Cuarón is very specific in like his cinematography.
Well, I remember when I first watched this movie, and it does that thing where there's no musical score in the movie. all the music is diegetic.
Yeah, it's coming from the characters listening to music in the scenes.
It's only music that's actually present in the scene. So it's whatever they're listening to in that shitty
like
station
radio,
wagon, Plastilina Motion.
Which very interesting. Like the last song, the one that she puts in the ¿cómo se llama esa cosa?
The jukebox.
The jukebox. Yeah. And she dances to, and it's a song about love and yearning for love, and I miss you so much, and I wish you were here, and I never caught that.
Yeah.
Until today, you know, and what I never really did catch, and I don't know if you guys did, but when I saw this movie, I never caught sort of like the love story between the men.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't, you know, I saw the friendship, and maybe because as Mexicans, we're not programmed to see men who love men.
Just very machismo.
Yeah.
Just sort of. But guys have to be guys.
She makes reference of it several times in the movie.
She did.
You know, so she's picking up on it. But I mean, she's not Mexican.
And she's Spanish.
Yeah.
Which they're very progressive. You know, not like us Mexicans. Not now, because we're different now than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But you see like the interactions with the help at the end of the day, even though these guys are in suits. Sorry, I got caught up.
Oh, yeah, and that's okay. The movie's on in the background, so we're kind of...
And, the cleaning ladies are bringing
them food,
to the guards, And what I found very, very interesting also in this movie is the fact that even though Tenoch and Julio are so, so close, they're like brothers, when they get in that fight, the first thing that Tenoch tells Julio, he calls him arribista, which is a social climber.
Yeah.
He calls him a naco.
Yeah.
Which is, is there a word in English for naco? Like,
I don't know.
I don't want to say.
Is it just sort of somebody that's from
lower class,
more of a working lower class that just sort of latches on to someone that has
a
little
naco
bit
is someone,
more money than they do?
Not even that.
Lower class, no taste, no money.
Yeah.
Like somebody, usually darker skin.
Yeah.
They call you a naco.
Yeah.
And, even those were the first things that he goes to hurt his feelings, and at this point they've been friends, and they have attend what do you call that? The manifesto, their friendship, like 10 points of how close they are, and it takes
so
one
close
fight
that
to
they are jerking off right next to each other on the diving board. I remember watching this scene and us just being like, "Oh my god,
what is happening right now?
What is happening?"
See, but he did it in such a beautiful way that I'm telling you, like I never caught the love between the men, and now when I watched it again with those eyes of like these men might be in love, I caught it a little bit. I see the love story. I see it more from Julio's standpoint than Tenoch,
Yeah.
I see it more in like when they get in this fight and you just see that like Julio's like he just is so heartbroken.
Yeah.
And Tenoch just goes to like for the kill.
Yeah.
It's interesting because like Tenoch is the less mature one because he comes from more wealth
privilege.
And he has been more
so much privilege,
babied throughout his entire life.
Yeah.
So he's a little less emotionally. I don't think either of them are ready to kind of face those kind of feelings. But it's like they talk about, their little group, the charolastras, and there's more of them. There's the stoner friend that gives them the directions to the fake beat.
Love the stoner friend. I think that we all knew this.
We all had that friend.
We all had this friend when we were young.
Can't even keep us like a conversation going.
Yeah.
But then there's another guy in the group that they kind of all fell out of touch with, and they mentioned that ever since he came out, ever since he came out, we don't really hang out with him anymore. And she's like, "Oh, are you okay with that?" And they're like, "Oh, it's fine." They're both like, "It's fine, we don't care," but they don't hang out with them anymore.
Yeah,
And is it because the kid went off and found his own gay friends and he's living in
different
Zona Rosa
scene.
now?
Yeah, when these kids are like. I don't know if they ever do come out, because when they find
yeah.
each other again, I think a year later,
Yeah.
Tenoch now is doing the one thing that his dad wanted him to do.
Yeah.
So he was always,
that he didn't want to do.
So he was always going to be this kid. He's always going to be this, person who, 20 years, like today, Tenoch is like his dad. He has the president of, Mexico at his parties, and Julio, just part of the, prole, we call it, which is the working class. Even though he probably finished school, he's still not well off. And that was always going to be, I don't know. In my opinion, I didn't have an adulthood in Mexico, so I don't know sort of where it would have taken me. But it's very much present in the class. Like if you sort of stay in it, you kind of hover and you like hang out and you have the benefits of it, like Julio did, but you never really are part of it unless you're like born into it. And I feel like he really was able to capture that, And there's Tenoch and his nanny.
Look at his little booties that he was wearing.
He's just hanging out.
Kind of the main story of this movie is that these two boys they meet this woman at a wedding at a cousin, and they're kind of flirting with her. There, she's with her husband. And
who is Tenoch's older cousin?
Yes.
That they are kind of like
Tenoch's older cousin.
Antagonistic with, because he's older than them. And
he's an actual writer, and Tenoch wants to be a writer. So he's salty about it.
So they're kind of chatting up her. They're just sort of telling her about this beach that they want to take her to.
Right.
And then they sort of part ways.
But they're just making it up.
Yeah, they're just sort of talking out of their ass. They're making it up. And then the next day...
she calls him up and she's like, I want to go to the beach.
And you kind of get some turmoil with her and her husband that he's been sleeping with other women. And she just decides, I'm going to go to the beach with these two horn dog boys.
But, in the, I guess, background, like she's, you find her like, there's something going on with her. She's like crying and something.
And she's kind of the character that when I revisit this movie now, and I'm probably now roughly the same age as Louisa.
Like you're probably older than her.
Probably like in her...
She was in her 20s.
I
think she was in her 20s?
Oh, wow. I was expecting this character to be like in her mid-30s.
No, I think she was supposed to be in her 20s.
Maybe late 20s.
Well, anyway, so it's kind of interesting now when I revisit this movie. She's kind of the character that I latch onto the most. Yeah. And it's just that thing that when you grow up, on this movie, that when I watch this movie, 17 years old, I think that you immediately have to identify with one of these boys. Yeah. And then just sort of when you get older, you kind of really see Luisa's character and just that sadness with her.
She's the most mature. Well, she's had so much in her life.
She's had so much in her life.
Everyone.
She's lost. She talks about her boyfriend that when they were 16 years old, he died on his motorcycle. And then she just sort of had to settle with her husband. Like when she was,
she did love him though, but sleeping around.
But just sort of like she found him in her early 20s, so she didn't really have a life as a young person.
No. And she also says that she just went to school because that was a thing to do. She had to help her tia.
So she needed some kind of
to go study to be a dental hygienist.
Yeah,
she needed a profession.
She didn't come from the privilege that her husband had. Hano, right?
I shouldn't say that there's a sadness to this character, because I think this character...
I think there is.
I think that this character is also very joyful, but there is just this melancholy about her. And then at the very end of the movie, you see why.
You find out why.
You find why.
Yeah.
But, she's probably the only mature, centered character that we get to see in the whole movie, because except for the nanny who brings the sandwiches, like there's nobody else that the main that's giving any sort of maturity in the movie. Everyone's either Julio's sister is out there fighting La Revolucion. The parents are busy. We never get to see Julio's mom,
right?
Or
I don't think we see Julio's mom. We only see the sister.
She's a secretary, for a long time in an office. Just the mom, the sister, fighting it out there in the streets. And, everyone else is onto their own thing, either drugs or sex or money. And she's the only one, I think, Luisa, that's sort of looking for something more that's none of those things. And she probably thinks, these kids are fun. They're harmless. Let me, let them take me to the beach. And I don't think she had the plan all along.
No,
it
not
just
at all.
sort of like it happened.
I think one of the things that I noticed about it rewatching it now after so many years is that, with their immaturity just comes with they just get super passionate about things 1 minute and then kind of forget about it the next minute. At the beginning of the movie we see them both banging their girlfriends who are getting ready to leave for a European vacation. They're going to Italy for
promise me you're
weeks.
not going to fuck anyone else. I love you so much. I can't,
And they're like, oh, you're not going to go out tonight, are you? And, oh, no, I couldn't go. I'm going to be too sad. How can I go out? Party.
At the airport, they're like, so you're going to party? Fuck yeah, fuck these bitches. Like, they need to leave now, Like, oh, they've been saying bye for 3 hours. Leave already. We need to go.
And and we kind of find out later, too, that that these girls are probably doing the same thing. They're going to Italy. Where did they go to Italy?
Were. Yeah, because they were doing each other's
boys.
boyfriends.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and they're so passionate about their girlfriends, but then they're going to party,
And they assume that they know everything about sex.
Yeah.
And that's we were talking about the opening scene of the movie and just sort of like when you watch it when you're younger as opposed to now.
Yeah.
And you're just like, Jesus Christ, kids. Like,
children.
Like, you were just like going right in there.
It's just awful, like little dry humping. And when they both, because they both sleep with Luisa, because she's just in pain, and Tenoch is there, and she said it. Whoever was there, it was going to happen with,
Julio,
and it's a very comical sex scene, really, because it's just like comes in like 10 seconds, and then she like, okay, I'm just going to have to sleep with the other one, so the other one's not mad. It's like toddlers. It's like, you got to give them both the same snack, or they're going to be mad. That's
same size.
how immature they are, and how she's like, almost. As a mother figure, even though, she's not that, guiding them, she's like, well, I'm going to have to, like, just make it even and have them both have their snack. And they both suck, and it's just awful sex.
I always think that when we're younger and we first watch this movie, were you a Diego Luna? Or
fan or
girl or a Gael García Bernal type of girl?
So Diego Luna and Gael García Bernal are child stars.
Diego Luna was on a big Mexican soap opera.
No, that was both, actually.
Oh, both.
They were in the same one. So it was called El Abuelo y Yo.
Okay.
And I think it was the same premise where I think Gael García lived with his grandpa, El Abuelo. It was about Gael García was the main guy, and I think Diego Luna was his friend. And I don't remember, because I'm the same age as they are.
Yeah.
25.
Right.
And and at the time, I don't remember if Diego Luna was rich back in that novela.
Show. Okay.
But they were like best friends, and there was one of the biggest novelas in Mexico, at least for me, because it was my age.
Yeah.
So then Gael García sort of left. Like they both, I think Diego Luna might have done another movie. I mean novela, but
sure.
But Gael García just left. He didn't do anything else. He just was gone.
And he went on to do Amores Perros.
And then he came back, he did Amores Perros. So I watched Amores Perros, and I'm like, I know this guy. I know those eyes. Yeah. And when I found out, it was Gael García.
Oh, Amores Perros, talk about a fucking bummer of a movie. That one.
Bummer. Mm-hmm. Have you guys done that one?
No.
I don't want to do it.
No.
I don't.
Don't call me back.
We will not.
No, we're not going to be doing that, or 21 Grams Are Beautiful.
What about, that's a whole other conversation. Yeah. But Cuarón's series would be amazing. But anyway.
Right.
So then what I found out is that Gael García went to study in England. That's where he went to school, and I think maybe acting school or whatever he did.
Sure.
He left, and he, left to England, and then he came back with Amores Perros.
Okay.
And I was like, this is my boyfriend from, 10, 15 years ago.
What does Roger say on American Dad?
You think everything I want is unnecessary. You wouldn't let me adopt a rabbit. You never let me watch The Hills. You wouldn't let me get that Gael García Bernal poster. His eyes are green and he's Latin. I need it.
He's Latino. He's got green eyes.
He has a Gael poster. He's like, he's Latino and has green eyes.
He's in one of the... and I don't want to be biased because I love him so much, but he's such a great actor.
Yeah,
he
he
has
is.
such
He's
range.
really, yeah, absolutely.
You know, and he's so daring in the roles that he's chosen for his career.
Yeah.
He didn't choose, you know, the classic route of like, you know, being just like hot in movies and like the Latin lover. You know, he's had such range in his choices for roles, but. So I'm definitely team Gael Garcia, and I've met them both.
I have to say,
I have.
Didn't even come into like Maxwell or anything?
Maxfield, yeah. So the story
Maxfield,
with Gael Garcia coming into Maxfield was a very sad moment for me.
Oh, no.
Because so he comes in and he doesn't know me.
And
How could he not know you?
And I walk up to him, guys, and I see him. This is my moment.
You're
I've been waiting for years. I spent 10 years at Maxfield. I had been already there for a few years. So finally he walks in. This is when he's married or dating an Argentinian actress, and I think she might be pregnant with his baby. Whatever. Why would he bring her? So he comes over, and me, I walk right up to him and say nothing.
You just walk up and stand.
I just in his personal space bubble. His face. He's probably 2 inches taller than me.
Yes.
I'm 5'2".
Short king.
Yeah, short king. We love a short king. He's the only short king we love. And I walk up to him, guys, and I literally just stand in front of him and say nothing. And he just looks at me, and I'm just like, it's me. But with my eyes,
I've been waiting for it.
Because I have no words.
Sandra.
I have no words. I'm just looking at him like, didn't you see me watching you all these years?
Yeah.
It was awful. It was embarrassing. And I just like, then I turned around and acted like I was fixing shoes. And then I ran and I hid in my office until he left. I watched him in the camera, and he might have smiled. I don't remember. I just remember him looking at me like very confused.
Who is this
like,
crazy woman?
do I know you?
Yeah.
Do I know you?
That's amazing.
Oh my God.
So that was.
When did you meet Diego?
We went to. He was giving a talk at I think USC or UCLA, and it was one of those like nothing like.
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't have a conversation. By then, I was a little bit more mature and like respectful of people's.
Weren't you
space.
telling me that Javier and Penelope came into?
Yeah. Yes.
Into
Okay.
Maxfield?
Now it's going to be the podcast of Sandra being appropriate with like people that don't know her, and she thinks they're best friends.
Love it.
So I asked Penelope Cruz if I could touch her pregnant belly. You do not touch people's bellies,
Pregnant ladies get that.
especially.
Penelope Cruz.
You probably asked her in Spanish, so she was probably cool with it.
I don't remember this.
She's used to it. She's fine.
No, and now that like, you know, having crossed that, like, no, you don't ask someone to touch their stomach at Maxfield.
Yeah,
she's a fucking employee. Like, but she was so sweet, and she said yes.
Yeah.
And again, you know, it's one of those moments that I like go home and I'm like, why would I do that? And sometimes when I'm driving down the 101 and I'm very embarrassed, I want to just throw myself over that bridge and be like, but why are you like this? Why are you like this?
You know what though? Celebrities now, they have to worry about like people on TikTok, and these are the top 10 worst, rudest celebrities I ever met. Well, so they don't want to be in that list. So now they're like, sure, touch my pregnant belly, weird lady.
No. Oh my God. Yeah. No, but you know, I've gotten my share of people who we've seen everyone there, you know, but these people are
there. You'd see
everyone,
yeah.
but you know, mostly we leave them alone. But not Sandra. Not Sandra.
Yeah,
now with Gael Garcia or Penelope Cruz or Ricky Martin. I was like, and Juanes. Let's move on with this movie.
God.
I am very inappropriate.
I love it.
So, yeah, I mean, I was definitely more of a Gael girl.
You're into Gael.
I mean, I think it's those eyes that really seals the deal.
Yeah, and those lips. Mm-hmm. He just has those lips.
Especially when he's in, like, Bad Education. And that face, like
Ocasión.
serving Julia Roberts drag in that movie.
He's giving Julia in that movie.
No, but have you seen his mother? He looks exactly like his mother.
Okay. All right.
Exactly like his mom.
He has a very pretty face.
A beautiful face.
He's gorgeous.
I love these ladies.
And it's, you know, it is a scene in someone who's, you know, selling food out of their home,
Pig's
older
head.
women.
Yeah.
And they're just like, you know, at the end of the night, they sell tostadas for like, you know, 10 pesos.
Yeah.
And that's how they make the little extra income, you know, to like bring a little bit more food. And that's, you know.
You know what I remember specifically too about this movie is at the time I had friends who were like, oh, I took Spanish in high school and college, like white friends that knew Spanish, quote unquote, and watched this movie, and they were like, "What the fuck are they saying?"
Slang. Yeah.
It's
Mexico. Oh
it's
my
very
God.
specific Mexican slang, especially the names that
Mexico
they call each other.
City.
Mexico
too.
City, because and they don't
Mexico City
translate it,
specific.
because whenever they say wait, every
Way is like dude.
it's like dude, but it has
way.
many different ways. They say man, but it's like there's so many different ways of saying it, and certain things that they say, I'm like, that's not what the read the subtitles like that is what she said.
That's not what they said. Yeah, no, the Mexico City is known slang. It's very particular to it and to the city, and they call them chilangos. I don't know if that's still PC.
I don't think so. Yeah,
it's kind of like gringos.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's calling someone a chilango is PC anymore. But yeah, the slang is very particular to the city, and I mean we all know it as Mexicans, because most of the shows that we watch are made in Mexico City. Most of the movies that come out in Mexico. Made in Mexico are made in Mexico City, so you sort of grow up with the slang. I'm from Acapulco, and we have a lot of chilangos.
Yeah,
sue me.
I don't think our listeners
sue me. We have a lot of chilangos that come to Acapulco, and so we sort of grow up knowing the slang. But it's very and another way of like belonging, I guess, to la raza, o no sé cómo decirlo demás, for Tenoch is speaking like, the students, they all speak like that.
Yeah.
But the moment, like, they, put a tie on, like, they can't, speak like that.
Right,
and
right.
That's how they, I guess, differentiate themselves from, the rest of, us, like, the way that they speak.
It's so interesting, too, like, the wedding that takes place at the beginning of this movie. It's like... I mean, I ain't never been to a wedding like that before, but I've also been to a ton of weddings like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, nothing as extravagant with,
I mean, you have el presidente.
That's what I'm saying.
El presidente
Mexicans know how to throw a party, especially when it comes to weddings or birthdays.
But also they talk about, like, there's all the security, and different people have their own private security there with them. But, like, I mean, of course, I've been to a wedding with, like, mariachis and, and
but
all
that's what I feel like Cuarón is telling you. Like, this kind of rich is a whole other level of rich. Like Tenoch con vacaciones en Lake Tahoe.
Also, I mean, they talk about
I don't do that.
They talk about his family having to hide out in Vancouver.
Yeah, exactly.
When they got in some trouble with the law.
And the girlfriends go on vacation Italy.
To Italy,
and is this in the 90s, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
The 2000s?
I think it's set in 99.
I mean, people who has that kind of money to like vacation in Italy, go hide out in Vancouver for a year. So he's setting the precedent. Like, these people are like rich, like a whole other level that like, the top maybe, 0.5%
when
Mexico,
when they that one scene where we do see Tenoch and the nanny, they start off on the first floor of the house, and there's a freaking fountain.
I mean, it's one of those Mexican houses that has like the courtyard.
The courtyard, There's a fountain. There's a water.
When I was living in Mexico, we lived with families, and I lived with a dentista. And it was, I mean, the house was pretty dated, but it was. This house had probably 7 bedrooms in it, and it was built around a courtyard, and there was just peacocks in the courtyard running around.
So you were rich in Mexico.
So I got to live with like the money.
Family.
The only peacock I saw probably in my tamales.
Pavo real. I remember they just called them the pavo reals. They didn't have names for them. They just called them the royal turkey.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
Real?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
cute.
This is, the pueblo, and, they're showing their pueblo queen, and, just got to give a cooperación, which is, 10, 20 pesos for the pueblo. And they have all these, like, rituals in the small town that I really love that he's showing that, even though Cuarón is someone who's rich.
He came, like, the whole Roma kind of was his childhood, right?
Yeah, because he would have come from money.
A lot of money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, kind of the family in that movie is just based on him, right?
Yeah.
In Roma.
His mother. Yeah.
In Roma, not here. Because this is a whole other level that not a lot of people have, this kind of like money that, Tenoch's like family does.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for them to have like, oh, their nephew lives in Spain and the wife is from Spain and he wrote a book and he's an actual writer and like all this creative like jobs. Like the thing in Mexico is that if, like I was saying, like Julio, even though he's going to the university and he's probably going to graduate and have some sort of title, he's still never going to be what Tenoch is. You know, like you stay in your lane, you stay in your class, like unless he marries somebody very rich, but unlikely. It's usually the other way around. You know, if the guy is really, really rich, then he could marry a woman who's not as rich. But a man who has nothing, it's very unlikely. At least then. I don't know now. We're maybe a little bit more progressive, but yeah, and it sort of shows that like everyone's sort of in their lane, walking along. And what I found really interesting when Julio was in the party, he asks the bartender, he's like, these people are such assholes, right? Yeah.
And the bartender is just like, sure, whatever.
He's like, whatever you say. Like, he would never get caught saying that, because that's a good job. Like, bartending for the president of Mexico, like, he's not losing that job, you know, for this little punk, who wants to call them assholes. Like, he's like, sure, whatever you want. You know?
Pete, we never got your answer of.
Oh, I was Diego all the way.
I know that you love Diego.
To this day, I'm Team Diego. Cassian Andor, Star Wars. Like, can I tell you?
Havana Nights.
Dirty Dancing. Havana Nights. Yep.
I did not meet him, but I kind of interacted with Diego Luna at Kid Space. I remember at the Children's Museum when I worked there, he came with I forgot what kind of kid he had, but he had a child.
He has 2 children.
Okay. So maybe there were 2.
Probably teenagers now.
By now, this was
preteen.
10
You said
years
his wife was really beautiful, right?
His wife was really beautiful, and I remember him being quite taller than me, but again, short king. I'm 5'7", so I was like, oh, goodness. But when I found out he was going to be in a Star Wars movie, I was like, great. This is awesome. Cool. I love him. I'm excited. I go and I watch a Star Wars movie, and there he is, and he's speaking in his accent, and he sounds like my tíos, and I was just like, this is fucking cool. Like, this is like...
representation.
Yeah,
matters.
this is crazy that this universe is science fiction, and it's, whatever, and these people are aliens and all that stuff, but at the same time, it's like...
Well, you can't keep brown people.
Yeah.
Well, I think that
we will go everywhere.
We're going to creep into every little corner.
I mean, it gives all of those little Latin boys when they're dressing up as Star Wars characters. That, I mean,
to have someone,
because like real talk. Mm-hmm. All elementary school, anytime I wanted to be anything for Halloween, it's like, oh, so you're the Mexican Luke Skywalker? Oh, you're the Mexican Superman? Yeah. Why do I have to be the Mexican everything? Yeah. Why can't I just be fucking Dracula? You know what I mean? But it's like,
you're the brown Dracula.
Yeah, I gotta be brown Dracula.
And now I don't know what his name is in Star Wars. I don't do sci-fi.
Yeah, his name's Cassian Andor, and he is a rebel. He's a spy. It's a really great character, and he's got his own show that's coming out on Disney Plus.
And he's coming out in it.
Yeah, he's starring. It's named after his character. Yeah, it's going to be.
I mean, we're going far.
It's and but I liked him initially in this movie because I thought he was just fucking adorable, just that little face. And another thing too, when we watched it last night, I was like, he looks like a baby. Yeah. He looks like a little child in this movie. I'm like, okay.
I mean, they were very young. Yeah. They really were. I think they were they like 20, 21, if that? Yeah,
I think that I read that Gael's born in 79 and Diego is 80.
78, I think.
Yeah, they're very
70. No, I think they're both 79. Oh, yeah, maybe you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah. But yeah, so I was always Team Diego, but I do love Gael. I mean, you can't deny that face.
I mean, he's brought us so much. I mean, when I say us, I mean all of Mexico.
Yeah, oh, yes.
Not just me alone. No, but he's brought our people out of pride, and because he's done so well, and he's transitioned so well in Hollywood, and he's chosen an amazing path for himself. And not cliche.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's done the cliche things, but as a joke, like Rudy Cursi, as like an homage to like our ridiculous culture, Like, have you seen Rudy Cursi?
No.
No, I don't think so.
It's both Gael Garcia and Diego Luna.
Okay.
And they play soccer stars.
I remember this one.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I kind of
Really
I remember
Lucy.
this one, yeah.
And it's just a comedy, and
Yeah.
it's just like campy and funny and fun, and they don't have to like be overacting.
They don't kiss each other in
Look
that
at
one.
this, like the cops just like
This is something
arresting.
too. Yeah.
Los campesinos
I
in the
remember
corner.
that was also a big culture
Yeah.
shock of when I went to Mexico.
The
It's
police
just sort
carrying,
of
automatic
just
weapons.
seeing policemen
Yeah.
in trucks carrying automatic weapons.
like taller than them.
Yeah, and that
Sue
is
me.
just not
It's
really.
true.
That is just not something that you really see walking down the street in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Or I mean, I would have been from my college town, Montana, or
Yeah.
even like
Even
now
worse,
living
yeah.
here.
No, like, and then you're more scared of like calling the cops because
Yeah.
you're gonna have to pay them, or you're
Yeah.
gonna end up in prison or disappear.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
So it's and it is a known fact that they, oppress, pueblos like this.
Yeah.
They take advantage of that. Like you saw, in the corner, this campesinos have like baskets and they're trying to like, take their stuff. And yeah, the police in Mexico is a
Yeah.
whole other level. You never know who to trust. Even to this day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you always...
I'm from Acapulco, and our town is pretty full of the cartels right now, and when I went the last time, our whole town was full, or small town was full of cops. But
Yeah.
you don't know which one's which.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I haven't
Yeah.
gone back. You're like, I can't trust either. So
But that's the other thing too about there's so many there's those all-inclusive vacation resorts, and people go to Mexico and they're going there on The Bachelor and all that
Yeah.
stuff, and it's beautiful. It is beautiful.
if you don't leave it,
If you don't
Yep.
leave, if you stay
there.
at Sandals or
Yeah.
whatever, it's one thing. But right out the door,
yeah,
It
you're
is a completely
dealing,
different story.
and it's it's a bigger conversation.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
like what you're not seeing is the poverty also that drives the people to join this kind of things.
Right,
yeah.
That's like I was saying, like Tenoch. He's very rich. Julio's not as rich as Tenoch, but Julio still has privilege.
right?
Yeah,
Even
I
in,
mean,
in not being
by
the
the
same.
standards
I mean,
exactly.
when you look at Julio's apartment, I mean, looks like a pretty nice apartment in terms of just sort of
Yeah.
Mexico. He's
The
not.
city, yeah.
He has his own bedroom. He's not living in like the same room as his sisters.
Or like when you see the
Yeah.
pueblos that they go to, like the
I mean, look,
hotels that they
look at
stay
this,
in.
the
Yeah,
little
this
chickens.
is completely different.
Yeah. And I think he really captured that in Roma, the fact that like,
Yeah.
the housekeeper, has her little corner, and then she talks about her pueblo and like this all she has, because this is how, they live in the pueblos. It's a really the contrast, the economy of, rich and poor in Mexico there's
Yeah.
no gray area, and yeah, like if you go to an all-inclusive resort, is beautiful. If you go, with a lot of money from here, and you only like try to find yourself at a yoga retreat for 3 fucking months,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and say how cheap everything is. Yeah, because you come in with money.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
us over there, Brown, we can't find ourselves in a yoga retreat.
Yeah.
For 3 months.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's like we gotta eat.
But and then even being in Mexico City and eating in a restaurant in what is like a very cosmopolitan part of the city, very nice neighborhood, all that, and you're like sitting on the little patio having your dinner,
Yeah.
and they're still coming up to you on the,
Yeah, it's
on the
like-
sidewalk,
There's still the little kids that
Yeah.
that run up
selling
to
you cigarettes and
Yeah, and
or just straight up asking for money.
Newspaper,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Like, yeah,
Like you wouldn't. I mean, there's homeless people, and situation in Los Angeles is worse than it's ever been, and than we can ever remember.
Yeah.
But there's a thing where.
you don't see little kids.
Yeah.
asking
Or they don't come.
for
I mean, they'll
50
come up
cents.
to you in like a McDonald's. But if you're sitting in like, I don't know,
Yeah, fancy.
Applebee's or whatever,
Yeah.
they're not going to come into the patio. They'll get
Yeah.
kicked off. But in Mexico
But
City, it's like
they do.
boom.
They do get.
They do
kicked
get
off,
kicked
you
off,
know?
yeah.
They do get kicked off,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and a little bit more ruthless than here. But
Yeah.
but that is the difference. That you're not seeing like whole families out like begging for food and money, and
Yeah.
and here it's most it's
I mean, don't get me started. We were in Ensenada, and I was tequila drunk. I was ready to bring one of those little kids back on the boat. I was like, don't just come with us.
Come with us.
I was like,
come with us, children.
Don't live this life of scamming people for rosas. And
I mean, but there's one. There's like 100 more of them. Yeah. So, that is the Mexican experience. That like you get a little bit of hint in Cuarón's movies.
Mm-hmm.
There's that little booty again.
Yep.
It's like 3 inches. Like the little line
the
is
little
like
crack
3
is
inches.
like so small.
Like who has a crack that tiny? It's like little tiny. Diego, I love you. But and you see that. Cuarón is really good at showing you that, not in your face, not like to make you feel guilty, not to put down the country, but it's like, look, this is how we're living. We're doing, the best that we can on both sides, I guess. But this is is what it is, and that's how we've lived for so long.
And he kind of, when he films, when they go out to rural Mexico, there is some kind of beauty in it.
Well, I was just about to say, thank God for Chivo. And listeners, if you're not familiar, the cinematographer, the director of photography in these movies, his name is Emmanuel Lubezki.
He's won like 3 Oscars back to back. He works with Inartu a lot.
He did Gravity.
He did Gravity, and he won for Birdman and The Revenant back to back.
Yeah. And he in the IMDb trivia, it said he used 90% natural light for this movie. And he shoots Mexico in a way that's very naturalistic, but very beautiful. Yeah. And, when you do see a lot of movies that parts of the movie take place in Mexico, or if they're about the cartels
there's
or whatever.
There's no, like, gold filter.
I was going to say.
We're looking
at dirty, dark.
We're looking at you. We're looking at you, Steven Soderbergh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of whenever you go south of the border, it's just gold.
It's yellow. Yeah. It's like, what the fuck? Why do they do that? They just put a weird filter on it.
We have all the colors. Which, interesting you say that blue. Because Solo con tu pareja, it's green.
Okay.
But it's beautiful.
Yeah,
It's very much like Amelie.
I was going to say, yeah.
It's very much like Amelie.
Or even like, what is Del Toro, the Black Lagoon creature?
Pan's Labyrinth?
No.
Shape of Water.
Shape of Water.
Yeah.
Shape of Water has a green
beautiful like
hue
that.
like
green.
that. Yeah.
And the buildings are all like darkness and green, but it's beautiful. It's not like grimy and like, it's in... so he does a beautiful job in that one. But here I feel like the way that he's showing you Mexico is... it's light, beautiful, and it's the poverty is it's not ugly.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. It's a way of it's an ism. It is what it is, and it's
These people that they come across as they're driving to the ocean, they live very simple lives, and for the most part, I mean, maybe they're not happy. But it's just like...
Oh, they're happy.
They're happy.
But it's like...
Chewy?
It's something...
Was his name Chewy?
Because that's all they
his wife, Maribel. I love those two.
It's just like... Yeah. They just live very simple and content lives.
I have my family lives like that in rural Acapulco, and you go into these little towns where their houses are still like sort of like sticks and cardboard, lamina we call it, and you walk in and they feast you.
Oh,
they have you so much.
They give you
chickens and meats and like just so much food that they don't even eat themselves every day.
Yeah.
But if a guest shows up, no one ever complains.
Yeah.
No one ever complains. They just live this life of. I guess not leisure because they're working hard, but the way that we understand it is completely different, and you would never, you walk into a house here. I remember I was dating this white man and I would come over, and whenever I'd come over, I'd like bring pizza for everyone or whatever I was cooking, I'd give to everyone.
Yeah.
And one time they ordered pizza and I helped myself to a slice because I've been dating this guy for 2 years. I've been eating my food for 2 years.
Yeah.
And didn't think any of it. I grabbed a slice of pizza, went up to the room, and whatever. 2 days later, my boyfriend's like, they're asking me to tell you, please don't ever touch their food again.
Oh, my God.
And I was just like...
oh, my God.
What? Like, I couldn't understand. Because in my culture, like, if I'm eating, you will eat. Doesn't matter how poor we are, And we are blissfully, like... ignorant sometimes, because we don't have it for ourselves, but we give it to other people.
Right.
And it's sort of in this town, so whoever walks, even if they don't know you, they have a smile, they have a beer, they have a meal.
Yeah.
You know? And they really sort of show that in this, you know, in the background of these two men who like don't know if they love each other or not. You know, they have all these old ladies like, showing their stories.
Sharing this swim in the scene that's playing right now in this pool full of leaves.
I love this pool full of leaves.
I love this pool. It's very beautiful. Like how this scene is shot by Chivo.
But that's the thing. It's like this hotel. I mean, if any of us or any just random person were to go there, they'd be like, oh my God, there's tarps everywhere. The pool is covered in leaves. This looks gross.
There are two naked boys
you would
out by the pool.
You wouldn't stay there. You'd see it and you'd, you know, give it a 0 rating on Yelp. I mean, like, I never stayed here.
Nope.
This is not what I wanted.
Yeah.
Not the vision.
But when these two are swimming in this pool that has got a complete canopy of leaves, I'm like, okay, I'll swim with them. You know, these scenes where they're in these little, I mean, are they even restaurants? But
no, they're houses. No, it's someone's house.
Yeah.
And, you know, because my tias, you know, everyone's tia. Everyone, like, you live in this little neighborhood and, like, there's always, like, a tia that's going to bring out a table and start cooking. And you, every day of the week.
Are you talking about, like the restaurants
the
they're
little
going to?
restaurants. Yeah, they're not actual restaurants. You know, they're just someone's house that... You know, a few women get together and they just like, you know, sell quesadillas and things like that at night.
The first night that they do that, the scene goes on for 3 minutes without a cut. And then the next, not the next time they do it, but later on in the movie, after they have the big fight.
Yeah.
And when she puts
the
song in the jukebox.
It's the last big scene.
That scene goes on for 7 minutes without a cut. Them just acting, cheersing to Chewie in the background.
You know,
and
the
taking
men, I feel like they're like improv. I don't think that was rehearsed. Yeah,
I think that I think the script had heavily improv with all three of these actors.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I read about that scene was that they had, for 2 nights in a row, Alfonso and they went to that bar and he was like, just hang out, party. We're gonna create the scene tonight. Figure it out. But he had them actually drink tequila and like get a little drunk. And then the third night, he was like, okay, now we're going to shoot it. We're not going to drink any real shots, but we're going to shoot it. And so they were just like, okay, so they were able to, the three of them kind of put together from like the last 2 nights how we're going to play this out.
Yeah, because it feels very like improv. Like, it doesn't feel like it was rehearsed. Like the guys in the back are sort of like, what are those guys doing over there? Wait, are they?
What are they screaming at us? Like,
well, every time they like cheers to Chewie in the background, they're like, oh, you're drinking off, and and don't you love this? And all. They never respond. The men in the corner, they're just like doing.
And they're probably men from like the pueblo. You know, they're like, hey, you want to show up? You want 100 pesos for the night? And they're like, sure, 6-pack and 100 pesos. They're like, for sure. They have no idea who any of these people are, or that this movie was probably a big movie. They're like, sure, I'll go.
But you know, I specifically remember at the time watching this and thinking, okay, they're doing these crazy. Oh, my ride's here! You guys hear this helicopter?
Shit. It's Gael for me. He remembered me.
He's dropping down on
I remember
a
He's
ladder.
he's landing right in our courtyard right now for us.
That I would die with that.
Oh my God!
That
And here
moment.
he is in these little white cotton tidy whities in this scene. Oh my God! No, but I remember watching this movie and thinking, okay, I mentioned it before. The diegetic soundtrack, big movie talk, right? There's no score. Yeah. There's voiceover, and when the voiceover comes in, the sound drops
out. I remember when I first watched that, thinking,
I was like,
"What
this
the hell is happening?
This is an independent movie. This is an art movie." I was like, "This is an artsy."
The guy who is in his first movie, Solo con tu pareja, is the narrator.
Okay, yeah.
For this movie, so I feel like it kind of like he continued from there.
Sure,
so it's the same guy.
Yeah, but I just remember like, okay, this director is like, this is an art movie. This is not Clueless.
This is an art movie, but it has the facade of being a teen
road trip
raunchy comedy.
I don't maybe here, but I don't think in Mexico was ever that.
Sure.
I think in Mexico was always like the return of the golden era of Mexican cinema, you know, like finally someone is doing something of substance who's showing us, and it's not because, you know, we had our golden era in cinema where, you know, Pedro Infante and all those beautiful like movies. And then in the 80s, I think maybe even the 70s, definitely the 80s and the 90s, it was all those horrible movies that were like just machismo and, you know, drunks in bars, like harassing women and just like prostitutes, and, you know, language was, you know, very crass language, and it was, you know, embarrassing to have, because I mean, I don't think it left Mexico, that kind of, you know, movie. So to have a Mexican make a beautiful movie about Mexico and how we see and how we live Mexico, and sort of throw in there, and I don't think he could have had, he couldn't have been obvious about the love story of the men.
Yeah, exactly.
Up front.
I'd be curious to see how much of that he discussed with Gael and Diego. Too.
Yeah, because I don't. It doesn't, like, I'm telling you, when I saw it, it was never like two men who are low key in love with each other. You know, like it was always like a friendship. You know, two guys were trying to like sleep with the like Spanish woman and like, you know, and have fun. But it was like, it was always sold as a beautiful movie. You know, from a Mexicano honoring you know Mexico. But yeah, I don't think he could have been like, hey, this is a story about two men who might, you know, fuck it at the end. Like it wouldn't have. They wouldn't have made it.
Yeah. But you know what's interesting, though, too, from a culture that, you know, some people could say is maybe a little repressed or, you know, a little bit more kind of, I guess, I don't know, puritanical in their viewpoints, to see a movie like this and to accept it so wholeheartedly and be like, yes, this
when we're
is
having
great.
like the other movies in the 80s, like ladies like being chased by a small person, you know, like trying to grab her ass and her titties, and we're like, yes, that's so funny.
There's no Bumblebee Man in this movie.
No.
No, he's just like, and I mean, these movies are terrible, but you know, and if no one batted an eye because they knew. I can't remember the name of these movies. They have a name.
Sure.
And then, you know, something like this comes in, but you can't be obvious about, I mean, because two men can't love each other. Yeah. Like, what? Yeah. Two young men and a rich man and like, you know, with a dad in politics. Like, no, you know, but I mean, we have moved so, you know, like far from this. And I know there's still a lot of it still very machismo and very, you know,
but
in Mexico. But
also, just kind of how cinema has evolved in the past 20 years, because that's the thing, is that this movie is 20 years old. And
that's crazy.
Even in independent movies, you do not see sex scenes like this anymore.
No.
That you don't really see this type of raw sexuality that is realistic. Like, it's just not really something that you really see in a lot of movies.
I mean, the realism in this movie is so, like, at the forefront of everything.
Wait, are they really doing it?
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, are they really doing it?
Yeah.
Look at him throwing a tantrum. And
I
she's
know.
like,
and this is where he really looks like a little kid.
Yeah, and
it's
she's like a mommy, like, okay, I had to give him a snack too because you had your snack, and now he's mad at me, so he needs his snack, you know. And but yeah, like the fight is what takes when I saw it again, and I saw the fight again, and the way that how ruthless and just mean he was.
Yeah. He goes straight for the bone.
Yes, he does. You know,
Well,
and Julio is more like, you know, like fuck you. You know, he fights back, but not. I feel like in the movie he's like the gentle.
Well,
like, soul. Like,
when Julio first admitted to sleeping with Tenoch's girlfriend and Tenoch got mad, Julio tried to downplay it. He was like, it didn't mean anything. It was nothing. It was really fast. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Like, don't ask these questions. Like, you don't want to, like... And he was trying to make Tenoch feel better about it.
And you really see the... You know, out of the two, I feel that definitely Julio is the more mature.
Yeah.
And because probably raised by a single mom.
Yeah.
You know, like... He had to.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
and I'm assuming that Julio probably works, too.
Yeah.
What do you think,
he would have
What do you think
probably.
Julio does for a job?
What do 20-year-olds
like a
do?
bookstore, like a bookstore like clerk, or in the like a school, like a tutor or something, like nothing.
Yeah.
You know, crazy, nothing that takes too much of his time. But he is definitely more mature because, he's had to. He doesn't have the privilege that Julio has. Yeah. He doesn't have the nanny patting him on the head and bringing him a sandwich.
I love when Louisa finally gets really fed up, and we're at the scene right now, and she just sort of makes the rules of, okay, when we get to the beach, I am choosing the music. I'm going to sunbathe topless. I don't want any of you pervs looking at me or getting the wrong idea. Yeah. And when I tell you to shut up, you are going to shut up. Yeah. And we will attempt to have like a good rest of our long weekend at the beach. Mm-hmm.
See, and it's all like, see how like he like flips him off,
Yeah,
and he does call him Niño Bien. I don't know if he calls him Niño Bien, but he calls him like privilege, you little shit, you're privileged, and then the other one's like, eres un naco. And, the first thing that she says to them too, like, what you want, you're fighting like dogs, but what you want is to fuck each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, and I was just like, wait, what? How did I miss it this whole time?
Yeah.
And, again, I feel like a little bit of it is just being programmed to not really see that back then.
Yeah.
Anyway, because, I was also in my probably early 20s when this came out, and just I didn't have any idea until way after, like, oh wait, no, they do.
Sometimes
they do love each other.
Boys like other boys. Yeah,
boys will be boys. But a lot of the Mexican, but a lot of the friendships between men, straight men, or who say they're straight men, are kind of like this.
Yeah.
Where they're just like always talking about sex, always wanting to bone, always just being, drugs and alcohol and like, sex. So it wasn't anything different at the time when I was watching it until way after when I like actually, now that I saw it as an adult on this side. You see the nuances that they have, throughout the film and I do think that it's Julio more that's in love with Tenoch than the other way. Yeah.
Yeah. And then later on when they finally do... the three of them after that crazy drunken night.
And it's one of those things that you do not see all that much. Like you see them go in the bedroom, you see them kiss, and then it cuts away to the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have gone further
but
with it. But you see enough.
They kiss.
They kiss
like,
very desperately.
Yeah.
Like I think maybe that was it.
Yeah.
Seeing that kiss, it's like, oh wait, they've been wanting this. That's when it's like, oh shit. Because, like unless you've been wanting something for so long, like that desperation behind that, like how they like hold each other. Like, oh, they really have been wanting.
And also
to
kind of they know that it's like wrong, I guess, when they're doing it. So there's a little, that's like adding to how they are, kind of going at it with each other.
And she's there. It's exciting, something new. And it's like, hey, we're going to have a threesome.
Yeah. We're going to have a threesome.
with each other. Oh, shit. I wasn't counting on that.
Yeah.
But, it didn't. And, the next day, Tenoch is throwing up.
Yeah.
Well, he's also throwing up because he's probably also really hungover.
Yeah, but like, but the way that, for me anyway, the way I saw it is that he realized what happened, and he's like throwing up. And I never see that side on Julio. I think that Julio's kind of like, well, yeah, that happened.
Yeah, he comes out after a beer.
And he probably, if it went on, like, we're following Julio's life and Tenoch, probably Julio maybe explore that more.
Yeah.
Maybe came out later on because I felt like in this character, it was a little bit more true to his character.
I get
this.
Maybe I get Julio as
something up.
kind of later in his life being a little more bisexual, having romances with
both.
With both,
Because he wasn't as affected, at least, the way I saw it is he wasn't as affected as Julio was. As Tenoch, he wasn't like throwing up or like all nervous. He was just sort of like, sitting there hanging out, like wasn't making a big deal out of it. He sort of like just accepted that it was.
Yeah.
And I think Julio was the one that was like completely horrified with what happened, So I don't think if we were to follow, his character, I don't think he explored that again, or maybe only when he's drunk. There's those people that only when they're drunk.
Yeah, that's true.
When they go to the beach, I always remember when I was living in Mexico, we went with some local guys. We went to go camping at the beach. So I always think of this scene of just like going out in a car, and it was not the beach, but it was a lake. It was a lake in Michoacan, and just like going out in like some like kid's car and just like pitching a tent out and just in the middle of like rural Mexico.
Did you wear bathing suits?
We did wear bathing. I don't think that I went in the water.
Were you out yet?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how was that? Was anyone or everyone was like a bunch of like straight dudes going to the lake in the middle of the night?
I mean, I think that all the guys were straight. I was just very like keeping to myself.
How was
at
your
that time.
experience of knowing and being in Mexico where it wasn't very accepted, and having, did it feel different that being in the closet here than being in the closet in Mexico? Like.
I think it was probably just different. I mean, this was also at a time that was pre cell phones and smartphones, that like there wasn't stuff like Grindr, which I think that if you add something like Grindr or Scruff in Mexico, it's sort of
sure there is.
It changes the entire game.
I mean, the thing with Mexico though, it's like it's very, or was, again, I haven't, lived there full time for years. Yeah. So it's just my experience of like being Mexican, like my community, growing up. But we're very open to like, we love drag queens. We love gay men. But then we don't. It's so weird.
It's a very interesting dynamic. But I think that when you go to places like Mexico City, is that Mexico City is just one of those massive metropolitan cities that all the gay communities just kind of find each other there. And just sort of a city that massive, that's sort of where you go out.
I mean, LA has nothing on Mexico City. Like, it's
some
like
of the
Mexico
funnest,
City, like,
some of the funnest gay bars that we've ever been to is in Mexico City. Tom's Leather Bar in Mexico City.
Tom's Leather Bar was
the
crazy.
Dancers at Tom's in Mexico. Also, when you go into Tom's, you cannot get in because you are a woman.
Yeah,
they will tell you to hit the bricks. Yeah. This is not a free country.
Yeah.
You're not coming in.
I love
Men only.
Oh, and then they tell you, like, this is a gay bar. You're like, okay. And then they're like, if your wallet's in your back pocket, put it in your front pocket.
Yeah, because they will
fucking rob you here.
I mean, they will rob you.
They'll rob you anywhere.
They will rob you en masse if they can.
But I don't know if they're thinking that we're Americans and like maybe at a gay bar they wouldn't do that, but they're like, watch your shit.
Keep your shit close. And also
don't leave your phone on the table.
They're dancers, butt ass naked. Butt ass naked.
Oh, yeah.
Dick swinging.
Yeah.
Where is this again?
It was Tom's Leather Bar in Mexico City.
Tom's. Yep. Let me in, please.
Yeah, and it's called Tom's Leather Bar. Nobody was wearing leather. It was not like. It was not like.
Leather. Like your nature suit.
But it was really fun. I remember that they played really great music. It was a good time.
That's the craziness about Mexico, that like we love, is it LG?
LGBTQ.
Plus. Just say plus,
we love the community. Yeah. Like everyone has a gay uncle. Everybody has like I personally grew up with like drag queens, like coming into my house, getting ready, to go into the club, and like I found pictures of my uncle like dressed as a woman, and I was never like, oh. So you grew up with this, but then at some point, like, I don't know if they just like program like men they shouldn't be. I don't know. Yeah. It's just so weird how it's very present, it's very there, and
you still get sort of a lot of Catholicism and like older Mexicans that are just still very Catholic too.
Well, you have the very, very, very macho man.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to be. And anything that's not like that, it's gay.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That's like their number one insult, pinche joto, like you're gay, like, oh, great.
To kind of go back to your question of if I was probably out at the time I was in Pasacuro in Michoacan, I mean, I probably could have found like the gay community there. Yeah. At the time I think that I was too kind of afraid to just go out by myself and explore the city sort of after dark and all of that. Yeah. But I think that now I would probably be more open to it.
Yeah.
If I was kind of the Scott today as opposed to like the Scott who was like 22 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is the beauty that, we have evolved, as a country, and it's definitely, safe spaces.
Yeah.
There always have been, but I think it's more open now.
Yeah.
You know?
We trusted and believed in Walter Mercado for all those years. So.
He is the second coming of Jesus.
So how can we?
And you don't get more flaming gay than Walter Mercado. I didn't know about Walter Mercado until I started going out with Pete.
Yeah, I was like...
Well, he was big here. Like, in Mexico, we didn't... I don't know if he eventually made it there,
Sure.
but, like, I didn't know Walter Mercado until I was here. But we had Juan Gabriel.
Yes.
I mean... He's like our Beyonce.
Yeah.
Like, he was everything for everyone.
And who is this?
Juan Gabriel.
Singer.
Tell me about him.
He is our Beyonce. He is our Madonna. He is our Harry Styles.
Yeah.
He was like our everything. He died a few years ago, but he was never openly gay though.
Yeah.
But once someone asked him, are you gay? And he's like, well, what is so obvious you don't ask. Lo que se ve no se pregunta.
Right.
That's what he said. So, but everyone sort of knew, and he was our biggest icon, Juan Gabriel. So we are walking side by side with, all of, the gay community. But then we also, but we do that with everyone. Like, we do it with brown people in Mexico. If you're, dark skin, if you're poor, if you're gay, if you're not a white, rich person in Mexico, sounds familiar. You ain't shit. You will be ostracized.
I mean, turn on the news when you are in Mexico.
Yeah.
They're all beautiful, very white-looking Mexicans.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
People that look like me. I have a friend who told me, he's like, if you stayed here, you'd probably be like maybe a receptionist at a hotel at most. Like your color, you wouldn't have gotten up the ladder anywhere. One, I wouldn't have had the money to go to school because my family didn't. You either have the money or the connections. We have neither, so I probably wouldn't have gone to school. Like after like la prepa. So yeah, probably like a secretary of some sort.
How old were you when you moved to the States?
14.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, 14.
How much English did you speak?
Pencil. Pollito, chicken, gallina, hen. That's it. That's all I need. Lápiz, pencil, and pluma, pen. That's it. Like I knew nothing. Yeah.
Wow.
So coming here was like, complete shock. But, this country did give me the opportunities I wouldn't have had in my own country because I wasn't born into privilege or from privilege into privilege. And I'm not light skinned. Like I wouldn't have, even if I had talent to be a singer, you'd probably see me like on TikTok now, with my boombox in the corner. Like if you don't have the money or the light skin, you will not get too far in Mexico. And I don't think it's different now. That's one of the things.
I mean, when you look at
it's
like
different.
Selma Hayek comes from a lot of money.
And she married a lot of money.
And she married a lot of money. Yeah.
A little bit of both.
She came with it and she stayed with it.
Exactly. I mean, that's what they do. I mean, you keep it, you keep it. I mean, a last name Hayek in Mexico. You have money. Like everyone's like Lopez and Gonzalez and Ramirez and stuff like that, Gael Garcia. I left Mexico. I was an actor. I left, went to England for, to study, money. And so it continues. Even these, actors, like, that's why the woman, Paricio, her name escapes me right now. The woman from Roma. It's huge because she is brown, indigenous. She's a teacher, but still,
and she got that fucking Oscar nomination. And she doesn't just look like a Latina. She looks very indigenous too.
Our own people. You see
Yaritza.
her like Yaritza Aparicio. You see like Instagram, pictures of her. Our own people call her names. She showed up in Vogue. Like she covered Vogue in Mexico. Our own people were like, why would you put that woman on there? Like, we're the worst. We're so racist. We are so
I think Mexican
racist.
people, too, and, like, the culture, like, just, like, casually capping on each other is just part of culture with your friends, your siblings. I mean, that's kind of like that in a lot of places. But I feel like it's really, like,
we don't coddle people, except our Mexican men.
I feel like, except men, but I feel like it's a thing where, like, if you were around your family or your friends and like let's say you trip or you fall, like your Mexican friends will laugh, like straight up laugh at you, and you're like, that really hurt. And they laugh harder. Yeah. Like, don't you, like, do you agree? Am I wrong? Like,
no, you're right. When my kids fall, I'm like, well, I fucking told you not to jump on the couch. Don't come to me crying, dude. I told you.
It is a known fact that when it's your birthday and you blow out those damn candles on the
you're going to get that cake in the face.
You're going to get that cake in your face.
In Mexico, when I was going to school, for your birthday, they will find you.
Yeah.
And they will throw buckets of water and sometimes eggs. They will break eggs in your head and buckets of water. Yeah. So a lot of people come with like an extra outfit, or some people just don't come to school. At least, again, when I was going, I went all the way to secundaria, tercero de secundaria in Mexico, which is like junior high. Mm-hmm. And you'd have to bring in like an extra outfit because they would wet you and
oh my God.
So we are,
I mean, I think this explains some of Pete's personality too. Yeah. Because Pete sometimes isn't the most like warm or friendly person, especially when we go out.
That is not true.
No, that's yes. That's true. I mean, we are very much loving and loud and like, but we just, we just love short or way in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
Like just don't hold my hand all fucking day, like that's,
but like you're saying, like your family, like they will give whatever they have to you when you come over, all the food, all that stuff. But if you trip walking in the door, they're going to laugh at you.
Or the dog like bit you. They're like, well, I fucking told you not to go by the neighbor's house.
Not to look them in the eye.
Yep.
Yeah. But they will empty their ice, chest, their refrigerador for you. Yeah. That we show our love through food.
Yeah.
Through like celebrating you, celebrating each other, even though as much as like we like,
and they force you to eat, and then after you're done eating, they ask you why you're so fat.
Yeah. Oh, that's the first question when you go to Mexico. Mija, estás bien gorda.
That's because y'all are eating so much carbs.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean,
and they're forcing it on you. Oh no, I'm good. I ate already. What you ate already?
Look at the guy here in the back, like the bartender. Yeah. Like he has eaten a tamale in his life or two. So,
one or two, a couple.
One or two.
Yeah, but your family will not hesitate to ask you to your face. And not just your grandma, family that you're barely tight with.
It's a cousin haven't seen you in 15 years.
And they tell you straight up.
The first thing is like, fat. You look old and fat. And they don't even like take it back. They don't say I'm sorry. They're just like, it's a fact.
And they're not skinny either.
No.
And they're straight up telling you.
They tell you like it is.
Yes, they're not skinny either, and they're like, "Why are you so fat and old?" But we're at the scene now where they're about to get. It's going to happen.
They're about to get crazy.
All the loving is going to happen. But you know what? They should have. Oh no, they have a full bottle of tequila that they finished, and they're like 19 years old. So they should be this fucked up.
I think the wardrobe styling of Tenoch and Julio is very interesting, and you can definitely see the class.
Yeah.
Of just how they style them. Yeah. That Julio, it's a lot of cargo shorts, soccer shirts, sandals. He has his cute little haircut. Yeah. And then this one, Tenoch, just sort of these
like white linen.
These these linen tops. He was wearing like his he was wearing like a little like a cute little beret earlier on the road trip.
Yeah. Like look at his flojo chanclas. You need some money for those flojo chanclas. Like,
you mean flojos?
Yeah, the flojos in Espanol. Flojo chanclas.
I always call them flojos, and then I heard somebody call them flojos. And
they're not Mexican.
What?
They're flojos. They're mispronouncing. Don't let them change your brownness. But like it is. Yeah, the wardrobe, like how they even with her, now she's down to like this just little printed dress, like. Stripped down to like
when we were watching it last night, the part that kind of broke my heart the most is when Louisa is with the daughter of the fisherman.
At the water,
and you just sort of glimpse at this life that she's never going to have. Of that, this is a woman that really wanted to be a mother.
Yeah.
And it just was not in the cards.
Yeah.
She got to mother these two fuckers for
Yeah.
like 3 days,
She got to mother these two idiots.
Yeah.
God.
For 3 days, but what an awakening for everyone, and for her to decide, like, I'm not going back to that
And
life.
she ends up staying with the family,
She
too.
stays with the family, and she dies a month after.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she knew that if this is going to be the last month that I'm going to live, I would rather live on the beach with this awesome family than go back to my husband.
I think she finally did something for herself, also as a woman.
She did it for her.
Like, to have this, like, low-key story. I know it's about the men, but this woman, it was very much a central, part of the movie. And, through her journey that, she's given everything for everyone. They said, like, at parties, she would never really talk at parties, and she'd always
contribute,
contribute, because she always said, like, I don't know about those things, but she secretly always wanted to be like, well, do you know every name or number for the teeth?
Do you know every number of your teeth?
Yeah, exactly. So she's always sort of kept herself in the background.
Yeah.
Small. And I think this is when she decides, like, I'm dying.
Yeah.
I'm doing this for myself, and these kids will figure it out. They're young, so.
Well, there's early on in the movie when I think it's when they get their first hotel room, and Tenoch is like, let's go to her room.
Let's go spy on her.
They look in the window and she's crying. And the next morning she was like, oh, you guys were spying on me. And they're ashamed, but they never say, like, what the fuck are you crying about? And she never even acknowledged it.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, you like spying on girls? Like, blah, blah, blah. And then just kind of shifts the conversation. But she fully acknowledges, like, I know you saw me. Yeah. I know I was bawling my eyes out, but they never, whatever. We're not gonna.
Yeah, she never shares her pain and what she's carrying. Yeah, which is very much like a woman.
Yeah,
what we do. So she chooses herself at the end, which is kind of beautiful to see how she stays very much true to herself, and she chooses herself, and then these two are left behind to just figure it out and see who they're going to be, and we see that Tenoch follows that path. I think that he was always supposed to.
The path of his father.
He goes back into
probably in another 20 years he'll be another corrupt politician.
Yeah, having the
Mexico.
presidente in your house.
He'll be picking up his family and going to Vancouver. When stuff goes south. Yep.
Yeah, and I can see maybe Julio as like an art teacher of some sort.
Sure. Yeah.
And same with his sister, like a professor at a university. Because I don't think you could go any further than that, And then they do say, like, the pescador, the fisherman, like, they build like a hotel there, and then he just works
as a janitor, and he doesn't go back fishing.
Yeah, and he never fishes again. So, and these are the things that that happen.
And that's the
Mexico.
thing about the way this movie tells its story, is that, like, little things happen, and the narrator jumps in and tells you about what will happen later on, like the pigs that destroy their when
they're driving down the road and you see the crosses and the narration tells you what happened.
And they're always big stories. Yeah. They're never just like a little sideline. But it's like a passing thing, but it's a huge story really in itself.
But they're always like
the dead body on the freeway from the man that didn't want to cross the long way because it would take too long, so he would just run across the freeway.
Yeah,
but those are true stories. I'm sure he picked them up from the newspaper.
Yeah.
Especially in Mexico City, a lot of people from the smaller cities and towns come. There's no work, so they come here. And you've been to Mexico City. It's a beast. Like, LA does not compare to it.
No, no.
Beast. You cannot cross the street.
No.
And if you come from a small town,
have you ever taken the subway in Mexico? We never took the subway when we went. When I went in college, I remember the subway in Mexico City was intense.
Yeah.
Armed guards just on the subway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because you will get robbed. You will get felt. You will lose something. Dignity, money, virginity. You will lose something in that metro if you don't go prepared. Yeah. No, it's
but
insane.
the way that the voiceover kind of tells about the past of something that we saw on the side of the movie, or kind of tells the future about these characters, like the pescador and what happens to him with the hotel. And then the kind of the prologue at the end of the movie, where after all is said and done and they get back they meet each other for coffee, and it's just so sad. Like everything's just so sad. But it's just life.
The last sentence of
don't ever see each other.
They don't ever see each other again.
Yeah, they make plans to see each other again, but they never follow.
Which I guess that we all have friends like that.
Yeah.
Of that somebody that we were once really close with, and then you saw them one last time, and then you just don't ever call them back again.
Yeah. But I think for this one is so sad and almost tragic because the story is so like full and so long and so like they have such history together, you know, and this is what, you know, broke them up, you know, like experimenting with something they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
Quote unquote.
Yeah. Or they were not ready for.
Yeah,
whatever.
they were not, you know, ready for. Because, you know, like you see, like I think Gael is the one that's like, oh yeah, I really want this. And then I was just like, all right, fuck it. I will do it.
Yeah. Because it's like, on the one hand, it's, you know, the fight about the girlfriends. It was a big fight, but I mean,
they kind of worked their way through it.
He never got, like, when he said about, you know, y tu mamá también, when he got to that part, which is pretty hilarious, like, he wasn't even upset.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't.
I always took it that was a joke.
Yeah. No.
I hope.
No, I think
you're saying you think
no,
it's real?
Definitely. Especially if the mom was like
the way that mom was.
Yeah, like free spirited mom.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, yes.
Okay.
Yes, and then you see the next day, it's like I think Gael Garcia just sort of accepts the fact that this happened.
Yeah.
You know? And but Tenoch is the one that's just not.
Yeah.
He gets all no homo.
You see, like, he's just like, what is happening? Like, I think Gael is like, yeah, that was, I saw it coming.
Yeah. He's like, all right.
Like, look at his pants. They're like kimono
They're
pants.
so,
like,
they are.
Like, who wears kimono pants?
There's a weird, like, a wraparound.
And you know, he's traveled.
Yeah.
You know, he's traveled. He's cultured. He's seen things, you know, and then he comes, Julio. I mean, Julio with his little
cargo shorts.
Little cargo shorts, you know, and his, I think, what is he wearing? Escapulario is like a church thing. It's
Louisa sitting on the table and drinking a beer with this kid on her lap.
Unbothered.
Yeah, I love it.
That she just like had sex with these two, you know, probably still teenagers, you know, and she's
this
just
beautiful
like,
free spirit of a woman.
Yeah, just like, she's like, now I'm not gonna fix this. You get to fix this on your own.
Yeah.
You know, I don't get back to like talking to you guys and how to fix this. You need to figure out on your own.
What's the last bit of narration before they cut away from her in the water, where she tells them life is like the ocean, so give yourself away to the sea. Yeah, I always really like that line.
Yeah, she's like this. You know, she's like letting them fly. Like, this is my last thing. Like, going back to when the pigs like destroy the whole campsite, and they went on to say that they sacrificed some of them for a party, and like a ton of people got sick. So like little things, snippets of like all the other lives that are happening while these, you know, three lives are sort of happening at the same time. And I think that's something that Cuarón has. Like, he's able to tell so many stories that are deep and important,
and also just different types of movies that I mean, of course, like, you would never say he's underrated because he has like
two
multiple,
Oscars,
like 2 Oscars, so it's like you can't really say that. But I mean, that guy is versatile. Like, this is from the same guy that did
The Little Princess, which I haven't watched.
A Little Princess, and also just like this giant movie like
Harry
Gravity.
Potter.
And Harry Potter.
Yeah. I mean, that he would have followed up Y tu mamá también with Harry Potter, which is wild.
That's insane.
There's another movie that, I mean, I guess it shares some themes. It's about young people. It's about sort of like young hormones.
I'm gonna have to watch it because I've never
with like
never seen
youth.
his
But it's also about like
fantasy.
But it's also about fucking wizards. So it's just kind of wild that he's that versatile.
I think his is the best one.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
his Harry Potter.
His Harry Potter is the one that
it's actually people say, like, I haven't seen the movie, but they say that that's the one that's the best.
It's
one.
the one that changed the direction
of
the movies, and especially how they looked.
Yeah.
Too. It's like everything after Prisoner of Azkaban. All of those directors pretty much just kind of
The
emulated.
fluff cash the check.
I mean, everybody just sort of emulated what
his style,
what Cuarón did in Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah, you know, he's. Oh, here we go.
Yeah,
But you see, like even in the way that they're dressed now, how Julio's like.
Julio's a little more professional.
Bit more, like sophisticated. He's wearing like a collar shirt and like your classic like, you know, V-neck sweater. His hair is back.
Pete was clocking the Tower Records bag.
Tenoch, his bag it's a Tower Records bag.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I miss Tower.
I know. But I mean, he's still rich. I mean, Mexico City buying, you know, Tower Records. It's still showing. You know, it's still the way he's sitting up. He's more nervous. You know, Julio is very much like chill. Like, you know, it's fine.
Yeah,
and I think it's just Tenoch who won't admit that. This happened.
Pete, would you say this is your favorite Cuarón movie?
Yeah, probably.
I think I would.
I feel like
so.
if I have this Gravity and Prisoner of Azkaban, like 3 DVDs sitting on the coffee table, I'm like, what am I going to watch tonight?
Well, he has a new one coming out.
Oh,
Bardo.
Okay.
Oh no, that's in her too.
Is Bardo?
Oh, is Iñárritu? Is that Cuarón?
Yep.
Oh,
and it didn't get very great reviews.
Oh,
in
I
Venice.
still want to watch it.
Yeah, and that's set.
I
in
literally read the whole interview thinking it was Cuarón.
That's also set.
The review.
That's also set. It's like set in Mexico in like the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah, it's Iñárritu.
But it's his life, sort of like
okay.
how, you know, like about him, but without really, I don't know.
Okay.
Parallel.
Semi-autobiographical.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
For some reason, I thought it was Cuarón.
Yeah,
no,
makes
but
sense. False Chronicle of a Handful of Truths. I'm getting to that age where I have to pull my phone away from my face. I was like,
I can't wait to see that. But
yeah, no,
just you know to follow. I particularly love Cuarón because of, again, his storytelling. It's very like deep and layered.
Yeah.
And not one dimensional. And I really, really love that he shows my culture, how I see my culture without making it, without glamorizing it, but also without, you know, it's
not making it too depressing too.
Exactly. You know, it's like, again, it is what it is. We are poor and we're happy. We're rich and we're, you know, maybe not so happy, but we are too. Like, it's just, you know, we relate to each other in so many ways, and we just live like parallel lives.
Yeah.
All three of the big Mexican directors are always, I mean, they just seem like they're just kind of a tight squad.
Ass,
they're always
like winning Oscars.
They're always like, but they're also very there for themselves creatively. Talking about Alfonso Cuarón, Alejandro González Iñárritu, and Guillermo del Toro. Like all of them are just sort of there for each other creatively, because they're, I mean, probably three of the biggest directors that have ever come out of Mexico.
Yeah, and the fact that they transitioned so almost like elegantly, you know, into Hollywood, and they're making, you know, beautiful movies that everyone likes. It's very exciting. You know, and the stuff that they keep coming up with, and then they could make a movie like Gravity, and then come back and make Roma. So that's what's beautiful. That they're staying true to who they are. And absolutely showing, you know, our culture.
They do one for the man, and they do one for themselves.
Hey, balance, right?
Absolutely. Is this movie streaming anywhere, Scott? I don't know what it is. You might
it's on Prime, but you either Pantalla, which is I think like a Mexican streaming thing. Like if you have Pantalla, it's free, but you could rent it on Prime.
Okay. Cool.
I would recommend for listeners that watch this movie when they're young and have not gone back to revisit it. It's definitely worth checking out again. Because it's a movie that when I watched it when I was 17, I think I got completely different things from it then as opposed to now. Now that I've sort of lived more of a life, and it's interesting to sort of drop into these characters, like to drop in and watch these characters
them
now.
with eyes of having lived the last, past 20 years in life experience and maturity a little bit, I hope.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we finally
back.
got to it on the show. We have not done a lot of movies not in English on the show. We did one 2 weeks ago, which was French. This is our second foreign language film that we've done.
Oh, I'm glad I'm here.
I definitely
token.
I definitely do want to do an Almodovar movie. I don't know which one though.
Which one?
Almodovar?
I don't know which one that we would do that.
He has so many.
He has so many. Yeah,
he has so, and
a
every
lot of
single one
great
of them,
movies that fit the theme of our show too.
The last one though that I saw, I haven't seen the most recent one with Antonio Van. I mean, he always has Antonio Van.
Or Penelope Cruz.
But a great one is Todo sobre mi madre is a beautiful one.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I can't recall
did you see
one.
Pain and Glory?
That one.
That one's really good.
Pain and Glory.
I think that's probably one of my favorites.
Or the one where Penelope Cruz, I think, does she kill her husband and she's trying to hide it in the freezer?
Volver?
Volver.
Yeah, Volver is really good.
My grandma really liked that one. I remember.
Oh my God, Volver! Yes.
I think that my first Almodovar movie, I think, was Bad Education with Gael. I think that was like the first one I'd ever watched.
I need to revisit that as an adult.
I haven't seen it in a while.
That pool scene in that movie, I remember that pool scene got me real horny.
Yeah, I don't remember
like,
it. I just remember. Oh, have you guys seen El Crimen del Padre Amaro?
No.
What's the English translation of that?
I have no.
The
crime of
Padre Amaro.
Padre Amaro.
Father Amaro. Yeah.
Father Amaro. He's a priest and gets involved with like one of the young women and all these things just unravel. Mm-hmm. It's a good one, but seeing that as an adult, like as a parent, I don't know. I have to revisit a lot of these movies that I saw in my 20s, but thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming, Sandra.
Thank
definitely
you.
A lot of fun.
This means a lot to us because you have a family and kids.
Yeah, our friends with children were like, it's hard to come over and
it's
it away.
It's hard to break you out for the evening, but we did it though.
I'm not leaving.
I know.
I'm staying here.
We got a whole nother bottle of rosé.
Hey, we're staying.
We're gonna watch Gravity and then
Volver,
and
we're gonna watch them all tonight. So stay tuned.
And then, all right, man. This has been so much fun. We'd love
thanks
to have
so
you on
much
again for something in the future.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. But until then, it's time to bid you adieu.
Bye.
So, bye, friends. And thank you so much for listening, everybody.
Thanks so much. Fun show.
Yes, indeed. Sandra, we love Sandra.
This is a really fun episode.
I just like hanging out with Sandra.
Oh, Sandra is a blast. I knew that she would be a good guest.
Absolutely.
And she's one of those that, she was texting with me like, I'm kind of nervous. I'm just like, Sandra, you
just be you.
You know how to talk.
You do you, girl. You do you. And she did. And we love it. Great movie. I've loved this movie for 20 years.
Yeah, I'm glad that we finally got to it.
Absolutely. So thanks for listening, everybody. That was a lot of fun. But I think it is that time in the episode.
Is it time for Patreon shout-outs?
Yes, it is.
Let's hear them.
All right. We would love to say a hey, and hello to... Should I mention Thomas?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I don't know if he would have... Oh, yeah, because he'll be by that time. Our patrons, including Thomas, Mark, Flemish Giant, Jackson, Millie, Darcy, Ted, Benny, Jermel, Melanie, Christopher, Susan, JJ, Shelby, Michael, Charlie, Muffy, Paul, Jamie, Drew, Genevieve, Dawn, Josh, Emily, Aaron, Melinda and Jim, Jessica, Nick and Shannon, Christine, and also Rufino.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being patrons.
You'll get the monthly newsletter, all of our commentary tracks, and there will be a new one by the time this episode comes out.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. The commentary tracks are super fun. They sync up with the movie that we're watching, and it's as if we are sitting in the room with you, gabbing away about the movie that's on your television.
You can queue up the movie and watch it with us, or you can just listen to them in your car.
Yeah, they're also fun just to listen to as a supplementary episode, especially if you know the movie really well. But when you sync it up, we give you instructions on how to do it, and it syncs up really well, and it's really fun. So check that out. And if you are at the level, the $5 level, which gets the newsletter, each newsletter also comes with a link to all the past newsletters. So you can also go back and read any of the old newsletters that you didn't get if they came out before you decided to sign up to be a patron. So all that stuff is lots and lots of
I also put up episodes
fun.
if I edit them early.
Yes, indeed. If an
I'll
episode
put them
is done
on,
super early, you'll get
up
it
on Patreon at any level.
Exactly. Even the $1 level. So you'll get early access to episodes that are done early, which happens every now and then. So head over to patreon.com/movies that made us gay and check it out. We'd also love it if you would subscribe, rate, and review. Head over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and give us 5 stars.
Love to read some kind words from y'all, and we will definitely read them on air.
Yes, indeed. 5-star rating is super simple. Just smash that 5th star all the way to the right, or you can write us a review with the 5-star rating as well. And yeah, like Scott said, we'll read it over a new episode. So that'd be really fun. You can follow us on all social media applications.
Movies That Made Us Gay.
We are
Facebook, Instagram.
We're at Movies That
Twitter
Made Us Gay.
at MTMUG Pod.
At MTMUG
We always link
Pod.
our episodes on our Twitter account.
Absolutely. If you'd like to follow our personals, feel free. I am Pete. I am at Peter Lasagna on Instagram and Twitter.
I'm Scott Youngballer on Instagram, and follow my letterbox.
Until next time, everybody. Bye-bye.
Hasta luego.
Buenas noches.